Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you Steel Division Normandy 44 and tell you why you should play it. Steel Division is a World War II real-time strategy game all about scale. From the individual soldier on the ground to the general in the command tent looking over miles of shifting territory, Steel Division's scale is both extremely impressive and well executed. While there is a set of boot camp tutorials in the game that teach beginners how to play, a game like Steel Division on the surface can turn away a lot of players with its apparent complexity. I'm going to break the game down to hopefully show you why it's both deep and manageable, and a lot of fun. To do this, we'll go over the broader mechanics and work our way down to the nitty-gritty details. First off, it's worth mentioning there is a solo campaign, offline skirmishes, and online multiplayer battles of up to 10v10 players. For now, we'll focus on skirmishes against the AI. There are two types of modes in the game available in multiplayer and skirmish. There's Conquest mode, which is all about map control. The side that controls more of the map will gain points towards victory, and the more map they control, the higher the rate of income for the points. This is quite an aggressive mode, encouraging players to push out quickly and grab territory where they can, and then defend it once they've got a majority. Destruction mode is in many ways the opposite. Map control almost plays no factor. Instead, you earn points when you kill enemies, the amount of which depends on the value of the unit killed. This tends to be more of a defensive mode, where players will skirt around each other, holding defensive positions and only striking when they feel confident enough that they can win. Now, Conquest mode to me is more fun, as it makes better use of the dynamic border mechanic in the game, so I'll focus on that for now. On setting up a game, you'll be asked to form a battle group and bring it into battle. This is where you pick and choose your army. Now, you form a battle group by selecting a division and then customizing it slightly. This is probably the most confusing part of the game to newcomers. There are 18 divisions split across allies and Axis with over 400 units to choose from. It can be daunting looking at the list, and while you can go with randomly generated battle groups, often it leaves you shortchanged for something. Now, as this is a recommendation series, I won't go too in-depth with the divisions, but basically they have a certain focus to each one, such as armoured, airborne, infantry and mechanized divisions. There is great historical flavour to the divisions, with backstories and photos of their generals, as well as backstories about the divisions themselves. The Allies divisions range between the United States, Canada, France, the United Kingdom and Poland, whereas the Axis are all German. Now, when creating your own battle group, you'll have a series of categories in that division that you can fill. Usually you're given slightly more slots than you can fill, which means you have to think about what you'll take into battle. You can practically take everything into battle, but you might have to make a few choices about how much of a certain category you want. Whatever division you've chosen grants you access to their unique set of units. Once you've decked out your battle group, you can save it and play it whenever you want. You can also import and export battle groups to share them with friends, which is really handy. Before a battle begins, there's the deployment phase. Here you can scout the map and view where your troops will come in from. Now, if you're playing multiplayer, you can use this phase to plan with your allies where you're going to go through map notifications and in-game chat. Unlike most real-time strategy games, there's only one currency in the game for spending on units, and that is requisition points. You gain requisition points every minute at a fixed rate. That rate is determined by your division. So no matter how much of the map you own in Conquest, you'll always get that fixed rate. However, the game is broken into 3 escalation phases, A, B and C, and these phases are triggered after a certain amount of time has passed. A new phase means you'll gain requisition at a different rate than previously and get access to the next tier of units. What this all basically means is that if you spend the extra time building a battle group that plays to its requisition strengths, you'll have a very strong deck to compete with. For instance, if my phase A has a strong amount of requisition income, it might be better to focus on higher costing units for that phase. And if my division is a mechanized division, I know that I have strong vehicles and a lot of power in phase A, so I can do a bit of a rush and land grab with them. Similarly, the enemy who knows my division also will know my income rates, and they may want to rethink how they deploy against me. It all makes for very interesting deck building and counterpicking, and good teamwork assures that players complement each other's strengths and aid them for their weaknesses. Once you've picked and placed your initial starting units, you'll need to start pushing out and gaining some territory. Most units start with a transport vehicle that can allow you to get your troops somewhere quickly, but once they've unloaded, the transport is gone. In some cases it will stick around if it's equipped to do so, but usually it's a one-time transport to get your troops to the front line. Now, arguably the most important mechanic at play is the line of sight system. Pressing C at any time allows you to get an idea of the line of sight in that area. If your troops on the ground can't see it, then you can't see it either. Trees and buildings hinder line of sight and provide cover, so naturally they become focal points of fighting. Roads can transport vehicles faster, but are naturally clear, so end up being targets for long-range weaponry. When you combine this knowledge with the information for your troops, you can start thinking tactically about where you want to place units. For instance, if you know your AT gun has a range of 1000 meters, then you can get a good angle on a road where tanks typically come down and place it just at the right distance. Some units can see further than others, and this is based on their optics level. Recon units and planes have high optics, allowing you to scout out areas, whereas most tanks have poor optics. If you want to block line of sight in a hurry, then you can drop smoke shells to cover a retreat, or better yet, cover an advance. Now, as I mentioned, buildings and forests are great for cover. You can place infantry in buildings and forests, however vehicles cannot traverse through them. Instead, they stick to the roads and open ground. Cover is extremely important for units. They perform better when in good cover and are less likely to panic. If they get caught in the open, or get surrounded or heavily outnumbered, they'll begin to panic and can eventually become pinned. Now when this happens, the units won't fire back and you can't control them anymore, instead only being able to issue a fallback order. The same is true for vehicles, however if they panic, they just fall back immediately. Lastly, there's supply. No unit has infinite ammo. When they start running low, you'll need to send supply vehicles to the front lines to help them resupply. Even the supply trucks don't have unlimited ammo, so you may need to ration your ammo by turning off automatic fire at will to conserve. If you can surround units with larger forces, tighten the borders around them and starve them out of their ammo, it's the perfect way to get units to surrender. Surrendered units will be removed from the battlefield and you'll never gain control of them again. If they don't surrender, there's always other options. This means that battles do have a natural end. Eventually you'll run out of units to deploy and your remaining units will run out of ammo. I've never seen this happen, but it's worth mentioning as some RTS games can theoretically continue forever if there's a solid stalemate. So those are pretty much all the mechanics at play in a regular match of Steel Division. These ingredients combine together to create a hugely dynamic battlefield, and some intense moments where you're relying on that one shot to hit its target or fold an entire town and retreat. The dynamic borders both look cool and create an intense sense of dread. You see a large bulge pushing against your borders and you know there's something big coming. You just have to try and set up some defenses to counter whatever it is and watch it come into your line of sight. Now the campaign focuses on creating these moments for you through scripted events. There are 15 missions available across 3 operations, each scaling in difficulty. The missions will predetermine your division and give you unique objectives and side objectives that force you to think differently about how you play. You may be surrounded with no ammo and need to find a way to lift the siege and get supply trucks delivered, or you might have specific missions to clear enemy flak guns and make way for your airborne divisions to support your ground troops. You also get to play as Axis forces, which is really refreshing. Not many games let you do that in their campaigns, and it's always a fascinating perspective of the war. They really are good fun, and as someone who loves single player games, I just wish there were more. Finally, the game has got a replay system, so you can watch back your games. It has a mod center for toggling on and off mods, though I haven't played any yet, and it has a fairly detailed options menu that lets you customize the level of graphical realism and UI. On the whole, Steel Division is an awesome experience where you can follow one pilot's journey or an entire company's war. In 10v10 matches, the scale is unprecedented. However, to be honest, it never really feels like teamwork plays that much of an important role, at least not so far. It often feels like you're in a 1v1 or a 2v2 inside a much larger fight, and can largely ignore the rest of it. However, I'm hoping in future to see teammates combining their battle groups and really strategically planning how they'll attack and defend. The tools are definitely there for it. So that's all for my recommendation on Steel Division Normandy 44. If you liked the video, please do consider leaving it a like, and if you want to explain the game to a friend or just want to be nice, feel free to share the video. Let me know of course in the comments below what you think of the video and the game and what potential games you'd like to see me cover next. Now that's all from me, and I'll see you in the next one.